Ladies, gentlemen, and Haradrim of all ages, the Vessel of Hatred expansion releases for Diablo 4 next week, along with the start of Season 6, whether you've bought the expansion or not. Tomorrow we have the final developer stream before all of this upcoming content, and it will be revealing a ton of info, including changes that have been made from the PTR that was held ahead of time for this, as well as new info about what Season 6's actual seasonal power-up mechanic will be. And of course, there are also just new bits of information on the activities included in the expansion too. However, there is news to go over before that even happens and steals the entire spotlight away from it, and its importance will vary from person to person, of course, but it's always nice to stay up to date on things. First things first, then, we have the official around the world international release schedule for the expansion. The release is on October 8th, however, of course, they can't have a multiplayer game like this really release in a staggered way. It has to launch at the same time, and so what that means is that it will launch in different times in different time zones as a result. So what they've done is just have the game release on October 8th as much as possible, with the exceptions being an actual early release on the 7th in the American time zones. The main spread of this goes from 4 p.m. Pacific time on the 7th all the way to noon in New Zealand on the 8th, and this of course does also mean the Diablo developers can be on site and responsive if anything needs to be fixing or patched or hotfixed whatever right after launch, as 4 p.m. is still a reasonable time in California. Aside from this, along with that, we also got the timings that you'll be able to preload Vessel of Hatred, as it is a fairly sizable game update along with it. And for Battle.net and PC, this has actually already started yesterday, so you can already get on that right now if you have a slower connection and you want to actually be prepared for launch. Otherwise, for consoles, meaning Xbox and PlayStation, you can start to preload the expansion on October 5th, specifically 48 hours exactly before the exact launch and release time of the game, so I guess it is also October 6th for some people. This, while not an excessive amount of time for consoles, should still be more than enough for most players to have the download done on time, especially as the game does require you to have internet to run it in the first place, so it's not really a surprise, but this is definitely worth actually getting out there as information. It is, however, also worth mentioning that there will be no preloading for Steam users, only for Battle.net on PC. Along with this, we also have a confirmation of what is and isn't required to buy the expansion to do, so that you know what is still new and accessible even if you don't want to pay for the upgrade. And to be clear, the list of things that you get to interact with for free are the new progression system as a whole, the new paragon system, the changes to items and the stat squish and all that stuff too, 2 new character slots so you don't have to delete the old characters at the start of a season, all the quality of life changes as well, the new class content being the skills and passives, the party finder feature, which is quite excellent when it's working properly, and of course everything that is Season 6 specific, which we do again know, the main term clue from the PTR being realm walkers and portals. So it should be interesting at the very least just based off of that information. Everything else that is new for the most part is just expansion exclusive, and this includes a number of activities which generally are optional. They're not really required for anything, but it does mean that you are locked off from things like runewords specifically, which are an important part of power moving forward, honestly, as well as the mercenary system too, which is looking to be relatively powerful for solo clearing content, even if they do disappear when you are in groups. So for the most part, this means you can still achieve the same power level without the expansion as you could with, but there are those 2 discrepancies which are definitely worth making some note of. Then we have a slight announcement as well that there are specific cosmetics tied to the Dark Citadel activity, the actual activity that requires you to have 2 or more players in your group to even do it, and specifically cosmetics tied to defeating the challenge that it offers within the first month after release, being the Long Fur Beast mount, which is a unique mount offered for completing this activity and for nothing else. One of the biggest community complaints in the base game and previous seasons is that the shop has a ton of stuff sold for real money that looks pretty good, but the game itself has had an awkwardly low amount of cosmetic rewards for things like endgame activities or things like that, and this is a direct answer to those concerns, to those requests, and that is nice to see. So we'll have to see the actual quality in game of what this looks like, of course, before we can properly judge it when it comes out. On top of that, there are also 3 pretty solid looking new free weapon cosmetics that you can claim from the shop at the launch time as well. Then we have our next announcement here, which is the return of Twitch drops and the Support a Streamer event too. All of this culminating in just sort of a bunch more cosmetics for players to acquire. The first set are Twitch drops themselves, which are fully free to get if you have a Twitch account and your Battle.net account attached to that as well. All you need to do is watch Diablo streams on Twitch for up to 6 hours each week post-launch to get the full sets of cosmetics. For the first week, the rewards for the drops are for Sorcerer and Necromancer, and these are essentially purple and green recolors of a staff and scythe skin, and then a back trophy for each class as well, which is unique unique to the sort of Nahantu visual style. In week 2, we have Barbarian, 3 hours of watch time for the green and purple Competitor's Pride two-handed axe skin, the other 3 hours for the Barbarian back trophy. Week 3 is going to be rogue specific with a couple of different colored new bow cosmetics, again a purple and a green one, and a rogue specific back trophy too. Then in week 4, the final week of these, we have the Druid drops of a two-handed staff with 2 colors once again, as well as the Druid back trophy. There are no Twitch drops for Spiritborn, it seems, which is pretty reasonable, honestly, given that all of the cosmetics for the class will just be new by default, by virtue of not being in the game before this season and the expansion too. Then we have the support a streamer system, which means if you gift 2 Twitch subs to a streamer who is playing in the Diablo 4 category, whoever they are, you will be eligible for the Ghost of the Conquered mount, which is actually a pretty high quality looking horse, at least in my opinion, and at 4 gifted subs total, meaning including those first 2, so 4 overall, you also gain the Glory of the Victor mount armor to match your horse too, giving it a very lovely and fitting aesthetic style for entering Nahantu and the Vessel of Hatred expansion. Then finally, just a heads up that we are now 3 days away from the embargo lift for Vessel of Hatred and all the people who've had access to the review build. Of course, no story things will be talked about in detail by anyone who has any self-control, so you don't really need to worry about story spoilers unless you don't trust someone, but that does mean that we can start talking about the quality of everything new and the actual details as well when that timer hits. So let us know exactly what parts of the expansion you would like to hear about from us before you get into the game yourself. That just about does it then, everyone, for today. Not a massive amount of different bits of news, so much as just a couple of relatively bigger bits, a lot of cosmetics, and the official release times for the expansion and the season as well, which of course starts at the same time. I hope you've all enjoyed this then, and of course, let us know your own thoughts on any of this stuff down in the comments below. Like if you liked the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.